Hello, everyone. I said I was ready, and I really was ready. I was on in seconds. How are we? Okay, welcome to Redmen TV. My name is Dan Clubb. It is your latest Liverpool transfer news update, and we're only going to use the word transfer for like the next probably 24 hours. This will be your penultimate transfer news update, I would imagine, because of course that loathed Saudi transfer window does close tomorrow. Thank the Lord, and hopefully we can stop talking about Mohamed Salah, which I know we all want to do. I mean, talking about him from a transfer perspective anyway, we'd like to talk about all the goals and the assists he's going to score this season, and indeed the trophies he's going to lift in May. We can talk about that until our heart's content, but in terms of transfers, let's hope we've got like another 1/2 shows to talk about that, and then we can forget it ever happened. We can move on with our lives and with the season. Anyway, I hope we are well. Thank you so much for joining me as ever. Let me know what we're thinking in the chats. I'll get to those in just a second, but before I do, I've got the very privileged position of doing our club, and I use a club legend's such an old term now, our Legends prize draw. And to do so, I've got the wheel of names in front of me. It's all our legends from redmenplus.com. And when I press this little button in the middle in just a second with some of those names there in it, whoever it lands on will win a Kostas Tsimikas signed Liverpool shirt. So I'm going to do that around about now. If I just click to spin. There we go. Drum roll, of course, as ever. The legendary drum roll befitting of the winner. It's going to stop in just a second. Let's see who it stops on. Cobb Lad, congratulations. You are the winner of that signed Kostas Tsimikas shirt. Now, I'll try and remember that name between now and the time this show finishes. Hopefully, somebody upstairs is watching, so I don't need to. Or we can just watch it back, whatever. But anyway, Cobb Lad, congratulations. You are the winner of that Tsimikas signed shirt. Like I say, we will be in touch. We'll get your details and we'll get that to you just as soon as we possibly can, which gives me just a quick chance to tell you that our signed shirt for September, our prize for our Legends in September, is this Ian Rush number here. I mean, not only is that a stunning piece of kit anyway, it's actually signed by Liverpool absolute legend. Like I've said legend like 10 times already in this show, but I mean the most fitting one might be for Ian Rush, because what a man he is, by the way. That's what you can win in September. To get yourselves in the hat or on the wheel, as it were, for that draw, become a legend on redmenplus.com and you will be on that wheel about this time next month, and possibly, just like Cobb Lad, winning yourself a nice little prize. Anyway, I've got news to talk about, and as mentioned, of course, the news is pertaining to Mohamed Salah. And the latest, I've just used the Liverpool Echo website, which is just a thing that is so difficult to navigate sometimes. So I'm not going to get Aaron to bring it up on screen. I'm just going to read it instead, because I've copied it all over thinking that might happen. And it is, Liverpool will resist a last-ditch attempt from al-ittihad to sign Mohamed Salah as the Saudi Arabian champions make a final play before their transfer deadline day. So let's talk about it, everybody. I'm going to pop into the chat now. Obviously, we know about the verbal offer that came on our deadline day last week, 150 million or thereabouts, some add-ons included potentially. Liverpool rejected it out of hand. Liverpool's stance remains that we will not be accepting bids for Mohamed Salah at this time. Of course, there's the fact that Liverpool literally cannot replace Mohamed Salah now. We're not able to do so. Whether you're able to do so, even with the window open, is another question entirely. He's relatively irreplaceable in terms of what he offers, what he brings. Age remains just a number. He continues to defy belief that sort of over 30, you're no longer a footballer anymore. Mohamed Salah remains at the very peak of his powers and remains integral to what Liverpool are going to do. So it's no huge surprise when you factor all of that in together that Liverpool will very much be saying, no, he is not for sale. And CJ is of the same belief. He says, I do honestly believe that Mo will stay with us this season. I tend to agree that this season line is quite a thing in there, isn't it? Because, yeah, I think we're all sort of at peace with the fact that maybe this time next summer, possibly even earlier in the summer, we might be discussing yet more Saudi talk with Mohamed Salah involved, I think. And with a year left on his contract by then, who knows, it might be a different answer. Deadline, which is a very fitting name for what we're discussing, says, it's worrying times. The package they are offering is eye-watering. Only way this would appease LFC supporters is if we sell him and we spend all the money on Mbappe. He is the only player available. Wow. I've seen some Mbappe stuff from L'Equipe in the past couple of days. It feels very convenient to link Mohamed Salah away from a move for Liverpool and also link Kylian Mbappe to Liverpool in the same breath. That feels like something that any good journalist worth their salt would do. So I'm not convinced. For me, I'll say this early doors, I'll get it out the way. There's two ways you can approach replacing Mohamed Salah, in inverted commas. And it is, you do similar to what you did with Coutinho money, and you go and spend the 150 million or whatever it may be on the squad. You get probably another midfielder, probably get the DM that you're looking for all this summer. You obviously have to buy another forward, somebody young, somebody hungry, somebody talented with sort of a very high ceiling that could do something similar, perhaps, to what Mohamed Salah has been able to do during his Liverpool career. Very difficult, of course. And you fix the centre-back problem. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is going to Arsenal and saying, we've just got 200 million for Mohamed Salah. How do you fancy 150 or for Bukayo Saka? Now, whether they say yes or no is a completely different conversation. I know Kvaratskhelia and Rafael Leao, they're all being talked about. And obviously, you mentioned Kylian Mbappe there. They're all possibilities. I don't think any of them can even hold a candle to what Salah's done, to be honest. I really don't. Mitoma's another one. He plays on the wrong wing for a start from Salah. I just think Saka. And we had this conversation yesterday upstairs in the office, and it was like, well, why would Arsenal accept? And of course, why would they accept? But if you do put that kind of money down on the table, it can be very difficult to resist. It really can. So that's the way we could approach it. And I think if you were to even match what we got for Salah, say we got 200 million for him, for example, and you went and got Saka, and Saka's not the player Mohamed Salah is or has been, of course he's not, but he's like 8 years younger than him or something like that. Like, there is something in that for me. But listen, this could be a conversation we don't have to have right now. Let's hope it might be for next year. Yeah, I'll see what you guys are thinking. Plu, afternoon, gorgeous Reds. Afternoon to yourself. Hope you're okay, mate. Yeah, I agree with your next point as well, buddy. Who else is not surprised that Mo wants to honour his contract and play for the greatest club in the world? Yeah, I completely agree with you on that front. I mean, the money on offer, I've seen a couple of people mention the package already. The 1.5 million a week on offer. I mean, it's no surprise what you're saying, but it's also no surprise that his head will be slightly turned by that, because yes, he's on, ridiculous money at Liverpool. He's the highest Liverpool paid player ever. Like, it's crazy. And in the real life, in the real world, we're talking silly numbers, but we're talking mobile numbers when it comes to Saudi Arabian contracts, aren't we? So, and listen, in terms of what he'd be over there, they've done some big business already. Saudi, of course, they have, but Mohamed Salah is the icing on that particular cake, and some. Like, what they would do to get him knows no bounds, and we're already trying to see that. So yeah, Gavin Sons, I agree with as well, and it's kind of the point I just made. Not like Mo is earning peanuts, and he probably feels too young to retire. Yeah, calling the Saudi Pro League a retirement league there. I'm not willing to comment on that right now. But yeah, I agree with you on the peanuts front. And yeah, and the thing is, I've seen a lot of people say this money will still be on offer next season, and hopefully it is from everyone's point of view, because if we are in a boat now whereby Salah's already thinking, I wouldn't mind a little bit of that, then Liverpool needs to get this kind of figure next summer. That shouldn't really change. The fact he's got a year left on his deal shouldn't alter the fact that we're still talking about £150 million plus footballer, in my opinion. Gonna go Paige Green says Salah is not going anywhere. I hope you are right. I really do. Gordy says 300 million. Wow. Okay. That's a lot. Rav D, this is pure PR, but I just thought I'm not going to comment on the first bit. It might be a bit of PR, and we were all talking about it on deadline day, so you're probably a little bit right on that. They would have made this offer before the deadline ends for us. Pretty laughable. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously a few weeks before deadline day, there was already talk about the offer coming in and Salah being interested. And obviously Rami Abbas, Salah's agent, shut it down out of hand really straight away and said, not happening, not spoken about, not a thing. And then like 2 weeks later, it returns, and it hasn't been shut down in the same way. And we've seen that as a bit of a trend, really, with the Saudi stuff. And when we all remember, it's the example I keep using, Steven Gerrard going over there for talks in terms of management, coming back. I think he was on punditry duty for like an England game on Channel 4, and he said, not happening. I went over there, we had a conversation, no deal. And then like 2 weeks later, he's manager of al-ittihad. And it's like, what happened in them 2 weeks? So we might have seen something similar with Salah. They might have approached Salah. This is pure speculation, by the way. Give him an offer, and he's gone, not sure about that. And then he'd come back 2 weeks later and gone, what about this? And yeah, the money might just be a little bit too good. Paige Green, it ain't happening. They can politely jog on. Yeah, absolutely. And Liverpool will remain remain in the same camp as that. Liverpool are saying no. Jurgen Klopp especially has dismissed it completely and utterly dismissed it. Said no, not a conversation point. Like, he's been asked about it in every single press conference. He just says no. As far as I'm concerned, as far as he's concerned, there's no story there anymore. And listen, we all hope he's right. Free Django says, "Come on, Dan. Hello, mate. Hope you're okay." Afternoon, Dan from Plur. Hello, everyone. Everyone's very kind today. It must be the sun. I don't know if we're all in Liverpool, but it is very hot and sunny in Liverpool. So it must be bringing out the positivity in people, which I'm all here for. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And people saying congrats to our winner as well from before. Was it Coblad? I've already forgot the name. Daniel Ward. Can the Red Men start linking us to shit players in January and see how many we can get Chelsea to sign? Yeah. We'll start, mate. January transfer window hasn't quite come into view just yet for me personally. But at some point, we will. Nathan Weiss. Hi, Dan. Just wondering whether my suggestion of James Ward-Prowse looks so silly now. I would take him for sure. I mean, he started well for West Ham. I'll grant you that. But has my stance changed on him not being the right player for Liverpool? Absolutely not. I said at the time, he's a good footballer. He was a footballer that should have stayed in the Premier League and did stay in the Premier League. That's fine. Do I think we've missed out? Or do I think, I wish he was playing for Liverpool? No, not one bit. I contest with anyone that says, he's just a free kick merchant. He's a lot more than that. He's a hell of a lot more than that. But no, I take your point. And anyone who did say to you that was silly, they were wrong originally, and that's fine. But yeah, I'm not gutted that it never happened. Let's put it that way. Al Jabroy, one of our members, says, no news that they have bid. Not going to happen. Salah said no. He's staying. We'll win the league, both cups and the Europa League. Well, there's a... I said people were being positive today. Doesn't get much more positive than that, does it? Let's be fair. And I love it. Salah said no. I don't know about that. Salah's remained very tight-lipped on the whole thing. And he may well come out sort of after tomorrow and say, yeah, there was discussions, whatever, but I never really fancied it. I don't know if he'd say no, because it feels like a conversation for further down the line that, again, I think will rear its particularly ugly head at some point. Chris P. Hackett says 200 million and he's gone. FSG will snap their hands off. The price halves next summer. I don't know if the price halves. I think the price shrinks next summer, because they're making their big play now. Obviously, he'll only have a year left on his deal. But I do wonder whether that really matters to Saudi, because we've seen in their business they've conducted already this time around that sort of logic when it comes to their transfers doesn't really play a part. Like, are they going to, like most European clubs would look at the Salah situation, Liverpool would look at the Salah situation if we were the buying club and say, well, we know we can get him for a little bit cheaper because in the final 12 months rather his deal, and they might have to let him go for free, so let's offer 50 million less than we would in this instance. But I don't know about that. I still think there'll be big money on the table for Liverpool when it comes to Salah, because it's Salah. Like, they want him desperately now, and they're going to want him desperately next year. And if Liverpool play real hardball, they're not going to want to wait another year. They're not going to wait 24 months from now to get Salah in. That doesn't fit their agenda. Doesn't fit the project that they're looking for. Salah is, I said it before, Salah is the icing on that cake. He is like the piece de resistance on what Saudi Pro League are trying to do. So they're going to want to get him through the door sooner rather than later. So I'm not sure the money halves necessarily. Gerard Cooch says Ferguson from Brighton is the next big thing. I mean, judging off his weekend performance, mate, you might be right. Republic of Ireland and Brighton have got an absolute gem on their hands there. He looks like a real... I mean, he's so big. He's so powerful. He just looks like a proper nine whilst having loads and loads of quality. I've seen somebody compare him to Harry Kane a little bit over the weekend. It's far too early for comparisons like that, by the way. But I agree with you. He looks like a proper talent. And a proper player. Nathan Weiss says Saka as well. John KLSC, I have no idea what that means. To be honest with you, mate, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just going to ignore it. I honestly don't know. I'm not being funny. I don't know what you mean. Tony Bedford says, I think we should keep him, then next season we'd still be able to get 150 if Spurs got 100 million for Kane. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's spot on. I think that's absolutely spot on. Mohamed says, I think next season Liverpool will try and get 2 centre-backs, a midfielder and an attacker. Yes, I think that's right. And then the midfielder would be a DM by that point, I would imagine, because Endo feels like a bit stopgappy. It feels like he'll come in and do a job for this year, and then we need to go and get the marquee one next time around. And Endo will just sort of drop back and be more of a squad option. With Stefan Bajcetic, of course. But yeah, we've just done our ranking show actually on the transfer window over on the same YouTube that you're on now, of course. I encourage you to go and watch it because it's a brilliant show. It's like an hour. Myself, Chloe, Chris and Steve talking about Liverpool's window. We graded Liverpool's window at the end of it as well, but we had a really good discussion about the business that we did, the business that we didn't do, what we felt we missed out on, etc., etc., etc. It was really good. And it kind of sort of links into what you're saying there, Mohamed, about what we possibly need to do in the future. And I can't think of anything else that we need. The attacker one, that again hinges on Salah, doesn't it, really? If he sticks around, then possibly not. But yeah, anyway, people talking about... also, Tomato says, if the Valverde article has any truth to it, he might be available. I haven't seen that article, mate. I'll have a look at that once I finish. Other people mentioning Valverde. Rain says his Christmas wish list is Valverde. I take him in a heartbeat, by the way, an absolute heartbeat. Random Piano says, if Salah is better off, good luck to him. He'll be better off financially. There's no two ways about that. Random Piano says, life is bigger than football. If Salah's new contract with the Saudis will secure his future, I think it secures the next 10 generations of Salahs, to be honest. It is the contract he'd be getting, as well as helping him continue to do the brilliant work he does for charity back in Egypt too, mate. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. His future is well and truly secured. It's what else he'd be able to do with that crazy money that is probably interesting. And Random Piano again comes back. Ben Doak is capable of terrorising Premier League defenders. Yeah, I agree with you, but he's not capable of filling Mohamed Salah's shoes just now. Nigel Smith says, sell Mo and get Tarkowski. I'm not going to dignify that with an answer. I shouldn't have dignified it by bringing it up. But here we are. Al Jabroy says, if Salah were to leave, and I pray he doesn't, who would replace him on the right? Well, right now it's Ben Doak, isn't it? Like somebody just referred to, I guess. Because we kind of touched on this conversation yesterday in the office, funnily enough. And I don't like Jota on the right. I don't like Darwin Núñez on the right. I don't love the idea of Luis Diaz being on the right. So what do? Do you just go all in on Ben Doak and say, far from ideal, but there you go, kids. There's the keys to Mohamed Salah's position. Off you go. Possibly. I don't love it because he's a child still. He's like 17, just turned. I think he's got loads and loads of talent. I think it's really exciting to see what he can do this season. Back end of Premier League games, Europa League, etc. But yeah, there is no perfect answer to that question right now, unfortunately. The only way you could do it is if, like I say, you do, hold off until January, hold off until next summer, and then it arises again. Do you go all in for one? Do you spread the money across the squad? I don't know. If you're going all in for one, I've already said, for me, it would be Bukayo Saka. I just think he's brilliant. Jacob Weddle says, being good for West Ham isn't the same thing as being good for Liverpool. Yeah, I agree. I think you talk about the James Ward-Prowse stuff from earlier, mate. I tend to agree with you on that. And I don't want to put down Ward-Prowse. I think he's a good player. I do. But he just never fit the particular bill for me for Liverpool. Mick Povell says, did you modify that cap? He wants one. I didn't modify it, but I'm also not certain it's for sale anywhere. I'll have to double check that. It's definitely a Redmen cap, I'll tell you that. But I'm not entirely sure it's on the redmenmerch.com. There is some really good stuff on redmenmerch.com, but I don't think this is. I'll have to double check that for you if you don't check already yourself. Nigel, okay, nice and sunny in North Wales. That's good to see. Mez, oh God, I'm so sorry. Mez Undukwi, apologies in advance. Apologies after the fact. Saka wouldn't leave London for Liverpool, and he's not worth 150 mil. Best to shop in the South American market and get an unknown worldie. We've not been great at that, have we, in recent times? Unfortunately, sort of doing our shopping in unknown quarters, let's put it that way. It tends to be Brighton, go and pick them lads up. They end up being world class. They sign them for 4 million. They then set the Premier League on fire, and then everyone else wants them. That tends to be the way it goes. and then they charge like 10 times the price for the lad. But I'd love us to go and do something akin to that. I think we're trying with Andre. I still think the Andre deal might happen in January, for what it's worth, by the way. Just to sort of refer back to our midfield dilemma, I think as a Thiago replacement, we might see that happen sort of fast forwarded, like we've done with Luis Diaz, we've done with Gakpo. Diaz comes in because we knew Mane was going to leave. Gakpo comes in because we knew Firmino was going to leave. I think Andre could come in because we know Thiago is going to leave as well. So watch this particular space on that one. Scottish Red in our Discord have just noticed as well, getting involved. How are you, mate? Hope you're okay. He says, guys, we're going to go through a lot here with this Salah stuff. And he says, Valverde, tell me more. I've heard of him. Great player. Wonderful player. Gave us nightmares for Real Madrid. Just everywhere. So versatile. So athletic. Boss. I haven't seen the reports linking him away, although that tends to be a story that comes around all the time. Normally, that's a good shout, actually, Reese. That's a good shout. And I know Chris is a big fan of that idea. I'm not, because how boss is Dom Szoboszlai? He's boss, isn't he? And he's boss playing an 8 and playing in midfield. I hate moving lads out of their position. I really do. It's one of my biggest pet hates in footy, actually. And I always hark back to it, and apologies if you've heard me use this before. But when Fabinho was boss, which was a while ago, when he was at the very peak of his powers as a DM, and we moved him to centre-back because we had no centre-backs left. He was fine at centre-back, he was, but it meant that we were struggling because we didn't have a DM. Fabinho wasn't in DM anymore. We moved him back to DM, put 2 actual centre-backs behind him in Reece Williams and Nat Phillips, and look what happened. So I hate moving players out of position. I really do. It never sits well with me. And it's been similar with McAllister playing in the 6. I think he's fine there. I think he does a good job there. But are you getting the best out of him? Probably not. And the same for Dom. Like, he might be fine as a right winger, and he might, score some goals, chip in with some assists, etc., etc. But look how good he is. Look how good he is. Like, people are comparing him to Steven Gerrard already, for God's sake. Do you really want to move him? I get it. Listen, if Salah goes, then you might have to. But yeah, just not for me. Nigel asks, where the heck is our Chloe? With a winky emoji. Okay. Right now, she's upstairs. In terms of being sat in this chair, I think on Friday. I think I'm right in saying. So stay tuned for that. I think Paul tomorrow, Chloe Friday. But forgive me if I'm incorrect, because that is information off the top of my head. Anyway, going to go through some more of the comments. I've got a couple more news stories to wrap up before I go. But I just want to get some more chats in before I do, because obviously the Salah stuff remains LFC since 73, I like that name, says, I don't think any formal bids have been tabled, usually described as verbal offers. Yeah, the only one we've had so far, you're absolutely spot on, is that verbal offer on deadline day. Deadline day was nice and quiet, wasn't it? Unless you were me or Chris. Yeah, there's only been a verbal offer so far, 150 million, that was rejected out of hand by the Reds, and rightfully so. Scottish Red returns in our Discord. I agree, Dan. Dominator. Okay, I like that name. Dominator is fantastic wherever he is. Don't move him. Yeah, and listen, like I say, I kind of come back on myself a little bit in a way, because if you were to lose Salah, God forbid, touch wood, it doesn't happen between now and the Saudi deadline, then you've got to bend and flex, and you've got to pivot on your plans a little bit. And Szoboszlai might be the answer on right wing for 6 months until we can sign someone. In an ideal world, you don't do it, do you? I'm almost tempted to say I prefer Ben Doak out there, just because at least you're putting an actual right winger out there, and you're keeping probably your player of the season so far, and I know we're only 4 games in, you're probably keeping your best 8, your best midfield lad in midfield then. So yeah, you're mending and you're making do a little bit in a far from ideal world, much like Liverpool's transfer window when we lost Fabinho and Henderson, by the way. But yeah, listen, it is what it is. And hopefully we don't even have to have a conversation. That's the main thing, isn't it? Although we will have to have it when Salah goes away for AFCON anyway. So it'll be interesting to see what we do then on that. LFC since 73 comes back, obviously answering somebody in the chat. I do think the transfer window has been weaponised like ever before. The transfer window is a fascinating concept. I love it. I'm at my busiest, I'm at the most mental, but I just love it. I think it's boss. And obviously some of the links are very tenuous, and there was times during the summer where you all got fed up with me and other people sitting here talking about Romeo Lavia. We got a little bit fed up with talking about Romeo Lavia, but it is what it is. We only do this to have a conversation about it. And that's why we do it. Obviously, we produce content. That's literally what we do for a living. But yeah, we like having conversations about things. And Scottish Red actually brings up another good point. Not one I'd considered either. You could put Harvey out there as well. I was kind of forgetting about him. I just consider him as a midfielder now. Possibly that might be interesting again with AFCON. Maybe it is a mixture of your Harvey Elliott and your Ben Doak out there. That means you keep Szoboszlai in midfield, of course. Auto Tomato returns. Are we still interested in Andre in January? Yeah, I've not heard any differently on that. The last proper conversation I had about Andre was, well, the last actual conversation I had was someone, the same person, telling me that nothing had changed. Now, I think that was the day before deadline day. So the last chat I had on it was that Liverpool remain interested. Liverpool like the player. Liverpool have spoken to the player. There's a deal to be done there in January. It remains to be seen when exactly we can get that done. I was told that it'd be sort of in the aftermath of our transfer window closing, which is now, essentially. So there could be some movement on that coming up. I know West Ham were also keen at the back end of the window, so not going to be a straight line necessarily towards him. But again, I think if he had his choice, from what I know and what I've been told, he would be choosing Liverpool. And I just think it's perfect. I think he could win the Copa Libertadores, which I know they beat Olympia in. Fluminense beat Olympia to advance. I think it's the semi-finals now of the Copa Libertadores, which they're desperate to win. So signing off, having won that for his boyhood club Fluminense before making the move to Liverpool in January, just before we lose Thiago, gives him 6 months to settle in and to be a part of the squad and not necessarily need to get thrown in the deep end straight away. Yeah, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Nigel Smith, I think we need to reevaluate in January. A lot's going to happen between now and then. Possibly, yeah, reevaluate the Salah situation, maybe. Sorry, Nigel. Sorry. And also, surely you've butchered the spelling because it's not that. Is it not Pitse? Again, forgive me. My French clearly not living up to expectations there. I apologise profusely for that. But I'm pretty sure you've spelt it wrong. Again, forgive me if I'm wrong. It's not that big a deal, really, if we're going to be dead honest about it. Jeff Denson says we can play Nunes or Big Dom or Cody. Do you like any of those? Out of those, Szoboszlai is probably my favourite. But again, I'm not all in on any of them being our right winger. I'm really not. Wow, that's an option. Dr. Matty says buy a right back and move Trent to right wing. Good Lord. Good Lordy Lord. You know what I said? I didn't like playing players at that position. Wowza. And if that happens and he's unbelievable at it, apologies. Plou says Brighton is the new Southampton. Yeah, I've had that feeling for a while. Southampton had this little spell, didn't they, where they were just picking players out of relative obscurity and making them into world beaters who Liverpool then just went and signed. And Brighton are very much doing that. Now, with Southampton, obviously, that came to an end. Because I've seen a lot of people discuss this and say there's only so many times you can get that right. And eventually you have one bad window or you sign like 2 or 3 bad players and all of a sudden you're not what you were. Brighton they haven't done it yet. Let's put it that way. They have not done that yet. Last few. Rav D says, if we don't get Andre in January, I'm afraid someone else will grab him. Yeah, there is I think that's a deal for January. I think he moves in January would be my take on it because their season ends in December, I think I'm right in saying. So for their perspective, especially after Copa Libertadores, like I say, it would be wise and the best time to make that deal happen in the winter. So I agree with you. If Liverpool don't get him in January, then I think somebody else will. So I think we need to. Scottish Red in our Discord again says, one last question from him. Thank you very much, mate. Are we title challengers in your opinion after our promising start? Funnily enough, I kind of touched on this in our transfer window grading show a minute ago. I think if we'd assigned a defender, yes, I think we would have been. Because my issue is, and it may never happen, we need a lot of luck with injuries is what I'm trying to say. I mean, if we have a pretty clean bill of health and suspensions, I'll add into that given our red card history so far this season. If we have a clean bill of health and we don't pick up any or too many red cards between now and the end of the season, then possibly, and I'm talking about the defence in particular there, because already there's a chance if Trent misses the game at Wolves after international break, we've got probably no Konate for that. He's probably still doubtful. And Virgil van Dijk could be suspended for that, which is a story I want to touch on in just a second before we go, actually. We already could be looking at a defence, a back four, of Joe Gomez at right back, And then who else? Sorry, I completely got sidetracked there. Joe Gomez at right back, Joel Matip at centre half, and Javel Quansah at left sided centre half. But obviously Andy Robertson at left back. Now, can that win the game against Wolves? Yes, it can. Can that win other games of football all season long? I don't know. I don't know. And that's why if we're one long-term injury, and pray to God it doesn't happen, we're one long-term injury away from being like, oh, our options are really stretched now. If we'd assigned a centre-back, that's not the case. And unfortunately, the team we're competing with, Manchester City, to win the Premier League title, don't have that issue. They're probably like 3 or 4 long-term injuries away from being in a bit of a crisis. They had a long-term injury in Kevin De Bruyne, and they went and signed Nunez to rectify it. So that's my only thing. If Liverpool stay fit, if the core 13, 14 players of our squad stay fit all season long, I've said it a few times on different shows, anything is possible. Anything is possible. I've seen enough already from the start of the season to now. There's still a couple of little things to iron out, of course, but we can win everything that we're in. We really can. But we need that little bit of luck. Certainly in the Premier League, I think the Europa League, we can win it without that bit of luck. Same can be said for the domestic cups. But the Premier League, if we're going to genuinely challenge for that, we need our lads to stay fit. Our key lads especially, but in particular in the back line is what I'd say. And we could have fixed that. That's why my grade, I won't tell you what it was, I'll let you watch the show. That's why my grade was marked down a little bit, because it felt like we were on the cusp of doing a really, really good transfer window. I think we did a fine one. I think we did a good one. The players we've signed are brilliant. McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, and Endo is what Endo is. I think they're really good, really impressive. Szoboszlai looks like a superstar. Happy days. But if we'd have got a defender in, I'd have been sat here with the biggest grin, and I'd have answered that question in about 10 seconds as opposed to about 2 minutes, because it would have been a yes. A just flat yes. But as it is, yeah, I'm not entirely certain we are capable of challenging for the Premier League, unless we get that little bit of luck, like I say. Just going to wrap up, or begin to wrap up now. Titch Green says Brighton signed Mope, they sold him. Mope, sorry, but still, yeah, he was terrible. That didn't work at all, did it? He remains. I can't believe Everton loaned him out on deadline day. What a piece of business that was. How did that happen? And he went to Brentford. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. You said you've better depth to sort of cope with attacking issues, but the defence, and even we've got the depth for midfield now. The Gravenberch signing means you've got that depth in the midfield department that will be okay. Like if McAllister's red card had have stood the other week and we had Gravenberch through the door already, you'd have gone, bit annoying, but Gravenberch comes in, let's go. Or Curtis Jones for that matter. But the defence worries me. It worries me, honestly. And we know how injury-prone Matip, Gomez and Konate are, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm concerned. Alex Blackburn asks, if the transfer window is still open, who would be your dream replacement for the King of Egypt? You'll never walk alone. Hypothetical combo. Yeah, it is. Of course it is. It would be Bukayo Saka. He would be mine. Steve Foster, we need Mo Salah. Yes, absolutely we need Mo Salah. I'm going to start wrapping up now because I've got other things to be doing than chatting to you lot all day. Not that I don't enjoy it, because I do. I really do. You're good people, all of you. Yeah, I'll start wrapping up. I just want to go over a couple of different news stories than the ones I've touched on. David Lynch, that's not the right tweet, forgive me. There it is. Let me bring that up. David Lynch exclusively revealed yesterday that Adrian was set to be omitted from Liverpool's squad for the Europa League because there's a UEFA loophole regarding goalkeepers. And I've looked into the piece that he says there, and basically it means that if Liverpool's goalkeepers get a long-term injury or illness, we can just call Adrian in. So that makes perfect sense. It allows Ben Doak to be included as well, which I think we're all pretty pleased about, because again, we're all very excited about what he could become. And that was it, I think. The last thing I did want to touch on, I alluded to before, there's no tweet or anything for this. The last thing I did want to touch on was the Virgil van Dijk stuff, because obviously we know he's banned. He served his one-match ban now, actually, against Aston Villa, of course, but he's been charged by the FA with acting in an improper manner. Is that right? Acting in an improper manner. There you go. Against officials, which they don't like. They don't like that. And it's been revealed, or the audio has been released now, and he called it an effing joke, the decision. Now, whether you think it was an effing joke or not is a different conversation. However, that does feel like it means he will probably get at least another game ban, possibly 2. hopefully won. So he could miss the Wolves game. We then go to Lask in the Europa League. Obviously, he'll be fine for that. Whether he plays in that is another discussion. There's a chance he might need some minutes if he hasn't played for 4 weeks by that point for Liverpool. Anyway, he might probably play for Holland during the break. But yeah, and then it's West Ham after that in the Premier League. So it remains to be seen what his actual punishment will be. But like I say, the audio has been released. He called the decision a joke. Yeah. Next time, Virg, I know you didn't like it. I know you were fuming. Just try and walk off, mate. Anyway, I'll go quickly over the chat one last time before I love you and leave you. I don't think there's anything else I've missed. Particularly Rav D. Yeah, cheers, mate. Appreciate it. Blue, have a wonderful rest of the day, Reg. Yeah, I back that up, mate. I agree with that sentiment. Do have a wonderful rest of the day. Like I said, I've got lots to do, including going and filming some merch stuff down at the docks, which is just wonderful. It's really sunny and I'm going outside. Cannot complain. Yeah, hopefully Liverpool don't sell Mohamed Salah. Next time I speak to you, hopefully he still very much plays for the Reds. And he's still very much brilliant for the Reds, of course. Thank you so much for getting involved as ever. I do just quickly want to say, obviously, the Red Men Legends prize draw was earlier. If you want to get involved in that next time, sign up as a legend on redmenplus.com and you will be in that wheel with a chance to win the Ian Rush shirt, which is down there on the floor. Again, thank you so much for getting involved. Until next time, take it easy. David, I think he's boss. Goodbye.
Hey, thank you so much for watching the show. You're amazing. And if you want to signify your legendary status, then head over to redmenplus.com. Join as a legend tier subscriber. Not only you get all of the great video and podcast content, you'll also be entered into our monthly prize draw for great signed Liverpool gear. And you'll get access to our Discord as well, full of amazing Liverpool supporting human beings. Head to redmenplus.com and join as a legend tier today.